Hey, thanks for checking out yourlocalnote.com. My name is Mike Stringer, joined as always by RJ McKay. It's time again for another featured podcast, but let me remind you that this is the place for you to discover music from in and around the Philadelphia area, and you can stream our station 24/7 on our free phone apps. You got iPhone and Android stores, just search YLN, and you can stream our station there. We also have that on our front page. We have our live shows page where we update daily performances from the Your Local Note bands. And of course, our music news is up to date daily as well. So this week's featured podcast, we have The Naked Sun, and we're going to begin with their song, Debbie Deist. And we'll talk to them. We'll find out more about them on this week's podcast. You're listening to yourlocalnote.com.
Oh
Debbie Deist, and they are The Naked Sun. Fellas, welcome into the studio.
Hey, how you doing?
Thank you. Thanks.
No problem. And first and foremost, introduce yourself and the role you play in the band.
I'm Tim Campbell. I play guitar and keys.
Dave Gladney, drums.
I'm Drew Harris. I write the songs, sing the songs, play guitar, and harmonica. And not with us tonight is Eric Budessa, and he is a bass player. And then our fifth man, unofficial member, is Tom Tussler. He plays keys, and he does a little dance.
We'll be hearing some of that dancing in this podcast with the 4 songs we got tonight, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
The Naked Sun. Tell us how that name became what it is.
All right, so The Naked Sun is a title of a science fiction book by Isaac Asimov. And basically the idea behind it is people in the future in the book are afraid to go outside because they've been told that the sun is radioactive and it's poison and you're not supposed to go outside. And spoiler alert, but it's all a lie. And someone figures that out, and then they go outside and they meet their neighbors for the very first time, and they have for the first time in their life, a real human experience. And we felt that it was very applicable to today's day and age with technology and just kind of like this idea or this philosophy. We're very connected on some levels. We're very close. But on a human level, sometimes we seem to be a little distant. So we kind of want to bring people together under the naked sun on a very human and, can I say, old-fashioned way, but in a modern spirit.
Okay, so how is your writing for The Naked Sun reflected that idea?
Well, it's based off the human experience. So, you write what you know.
Right.
And what I know is what I go through. And, as a human being, I'm trying to forge relationships, and I'm living this struggle between, this media bombardment of what life is, and these constant depictions of what life is, and then what between that and like what I want my life to be. So it is this struggle of getting closer to something more in the center of myself and in the center of other people too, so we can make that connection. Because I feel like that connection is what we really need to progress and to move forward.
Okay, and Drew, you said you write the songs. You write all the songs, some of the songs?
I write the lyrics.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And we usually put a song together musically. I'll come up with a skeleton framework, and then, we'll spend a bunch of practices threading it all together.
Sure. Now, that first track that we played, Debbie Deist, what is that song about?
So Debbie Deist is just a cute little alliteration, but what it really means is deism is, that idea of the clockmaker as God, that our God is time, right? So the song is about time. You never seem to have enough time because we do things that we don't want to do but need to do to survive. And it's the idea of kind of making time, this alchemy of sorts of making time, creating time that we can enjoy and be together, And the last couple lines are, make time to create time. Time breaks all of our hearts. The slave watches the chains bound for both their arms. And basically what we're saying here is that we need to set apart the time, to enjoy the time,
Right. And how long have you guys been together? When did The Naked Sun get started?
I think it was about a year and a half ago, roughly. It came about, Dave and I grew up together. We've been in and out of bands. The project we were in right before that split, and we swore off, getting into bands because it always gets messy. So we swore it off, but one night, I don't know, I got the old familiar itch, and I went on Craigslist and started looking around, and I found Drew posted something, and I liked what he had to say, and I checked out his site for a band that he was in back in Baltimore called City Slides. It was good. It was really good. Lyrically, I liked the way the music was put together. I sent it to Dave, and I said, "What do you think about this guy?" And we met him. You know, he's kind of a jerk, but no, we all got together and we found out we have this affinity for craft beer. We're all English majors.
Okay.
We love literature. We all hit it off really well right away, and sort of this camaraderie between. We've become really close. As a group of guys, as our families, we all hang out outside of the band, and it's been a really great trip, and we've accomplished a lot in a year and a half, and just musically, but also we've experienced a lot together, we've traveled a lot together already, and so it's been really cool. It's been a great trip.
Let's go to song number 2. It's Cosmic Winds. Drew, what is this song about?
Cosmic Winds is. It's a prayer. It's a spiritual for those who maybe don't necessarily believe in a traditional type of prayer, and it's kind of a misnomer, right? There's no wind in space, so to pray to a cosmic wind is a little.
You're praying to nothing,
right?
Okay.
So you're kind of praying to nothing, but you're desperate and you're human and you want something, some sort of fate to intercede and to help you and to push you along the way.
A little guidance.
Right. So it's my prayer for guidance.
Oh, okay.
And people say, oh, well, look, put it out into the universe.
Now, did you mostly put the words together, or did you also put the music together?
So for this particular one, Tim had this beautiful lick that you'll hear in the beginning and the end.
Okay.
And as soon as he played it, I said, we need to do something with this. So really what I did was I just kind of kept it in my brain because I'm not a good enough guitar player to actually play the part.
Okay.
And then I just made chords over it, and then from the chords I came up with verses, and then as we put the song together, we came up with the bridge and the chorus and everything like that.
Okay. And the lick was just something you had, Tim, that you had just been knocking around?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was one. I mean, sometimes you hear them and they're in their entirety. That might have been one where it was sort of kind of noodle around. I had a rough melody in my mind and kind of knocked it out after a day or two. And once I felt comfortable enough with it, shared it with these guys. And, everybody liked it. So.
Very cool. All right, this is called Cosmic Winds. We're hanging out with the Naked Sun on yourlocalnote.com.
Well, I've always welcomed strange times like tomatoes welcome rain. Looking at my own soul and it don't seem the same. Silence is burning like a wheel on fire. Yeah, my memory serves me well. Last time I had these low down feelings, I surely was in hell. Now I'm calling in
The song is called Cosmic Winds. The band is The Naked Sun on yourlocalnote.com. We appreciate you hanging with us, and we'll talk to these guys a little further. Now, as far as, you talk about the writing of the songs, Drew, all the words are yours, basically. The lyrics are all yours. But is it sometimes, since you're all English majors, as you pointed out, Tim, do you sometimes wrestle with some words and some meanings?
Yeah, I don't want to be pretentious. And as an English major, you oftentimes can be very pretentious. We all have beards. So yeah, you want to connect with your audience, but you expect something from your audience, and you don't want to dumb things down. And that's my main beef with most music I hear on the radio right now, is that, it's just too accessible. And when you dig a little deep, there's not a whole lot there. I want to write something that people can get, but yet when they listen to it a few more times, they get more and more and more. And wrestling with the words and everything like that, it's a constant struggle. It's a process that starts when you wake up in the morning and never really stops, because you dream about it and you think about it and you wake up with it, and then it starts all over. So
a struggle also is not to make the songs too complicated, because there is beauty with simplification.
Right.
So I would assume that is a struggle with you.
Right. I mean, one of the things that everyone says about guys like Tom Petty or Bruce Springsteen, maybe not Bob Dylan, but sometimes Bob Dylan, the greats, right? That's what I'm getting at, is that it's so easy. It seems so easy, but it's so hard to be that easy,
But that's a compliment. If someone comes to you and says, boy, I wish I could do what you do because it seems so easy and so much fun, it's a compliment that you've gotten to that point where you have been able to take something which is difficult, that you guys know, and we know that how difficult it is, but to make it sound so simple to just an ordinary listener or ordinary fan.
Right, absolutely. You watch your favorite baseball team and you see Roy Halladay just throwing a flawless game, and you think, wow, that's easy, and then you go try and do it, and you can't even reach home plate. So
I did that once at an opening game. I was supposed to throw a first pitch out, and an 11-year-old girl was up before me.
No.
She right on the line.
Sounded right across.
I bounced it to the plate. I got booed, and my wife was with me at the time.
Oh,
I walk up to her, and she goes, "I'm not standing next to you. Not after that performance." So I know what you're saying. You're English majors, so that obviously is an influence to your songs. Musically, what have you listened to when you were younger, got you into music, and now what do you listen to?
My first influence with rock, I should say. I think I don't know if I should admit this, but I had some like Boys to Men CDs and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's not good, Dave. Do you want me to edit that out, Dave? Should we edit that stuff out? No, go ahead.
No, my first, probably two of my first rock albums. One was, I stole them both from my sister. One was Pearl Jam's 10, and the other was Led Zeppelin remasters. And I remember first listening to Zeppelin thinking, I have never heard anything like this. This is awesome. And obviously being a drummer, Bonham was a huge influence. And yeah,
so were you playing drums before you got these CDs from your sister?
No, I was not. I would say very shortly before. I mean, we sort of, Tim and I grew up together. We sort of came into our own with rock around the same time, and very shortly thereafter, I think that's when we decided to that we felt like we could start a band. I don't know why. We just decided we were going to do it one day, so we did it.
That actually happened before we owned instruments. I think we took
So what were you using then, in your band, your very first band?
Ideas.
Yeah.
Dreams of rock star.
That's deep. We should make an album of ideas.
Listen.
I grew up, I loved hip-hop when I was a kid, and then I got into punk rock. And that's when I first started a band, because you didn't really need to know. You didn't have to be a musician to play punk rock. It was all about your attitude and what you had to say, and of course being a snotty teenager definitely caught on with me. And the other thing I learned from punk music was that music didn't have to be love songs. Love songs are great. It didn't have to be shallow. Music could have a message, and that's what folk music does, and that's what blues does, and that's what rock and roll at its best does. And that's the one thing I learned from punk rock. And it wasn't until I played in punk bands my entire high school and then a little bit of college, and then I didn't have a band. I found myself alone with an acoustic guitar and didn't want to stop playing music, and that's when I became a songwriter. And I had a mentor, a very nice guy who challenged me. He didn't know he was challenging me at the time, but he introduced me to Bob Dylan. He said, well, you can be a teacher and have your rock career too. You might not be a Bob Dylan. So from that moment, I was going to be a Bob Dylan.
Right, that motivated you, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't even know who the guy was.
How about you, Tim? What were some of your influences?
Honestly, my biggest influence was for some of my closest friends in the beginning. It was Dave. Drew mentioned Tom earlier. I grew up with guys who were like really talented, phenomenal players from the get-go. Later on, I started, and I listened to all the same bands, Dave did. And,
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like I went about the whole thing kind of backwards.
You started writing songs without instruments, and then
Yeah, and then really, it's kind of the way it worked. And then when we picked up a guitar, I was more interested in writing stuff before really like listening to anybody. It's just kind of, I don't know, maybe that's the way I am too. Start running my mouth before I start.
But there are obvious influences. Wilco's a huge influence.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like later, like it's only like within the last few years. Wilco, Jeff Buckley, Matt Pompier,
Tom Petty.
Yeah, I mean a lot of
My
these
Morning
guys.
Jacket.
Yeah.
So is that those people you just mentioned? Is that how you see? I don't want to say you sounding like them, but those influences specifically are what make the Naked Sun when you're creating this music sound like you're feeding off those influences you just mentioned, as opposed to maybe Boys to Men or when
Right.
you were saying
well,
rap music earlier.
I think Dave and I, like when we were in bands, it was always sort of a communal writing process. We always got together with no idea what we were doing. And we knew we wanted to write something, but we didn't know what it was. And,
Right.
and after a couple hours of practice, we just start jamming and riffing and putting these ideas together. And I think, like I was saying a moment ago, it took me a while to shut up and listen to what was going on in music, to really appreciate what was happening and try to be quiet and listen to what was happening with the song. And the timing of that was kind of perfect for meeting Drew, because like Drew comes in with rough chord structure and the lyrics, and it's so when you ask about all these other bands, how they influence us, it's sort of I don't know, basing it off of what Drew has, being quiet and listening, and maybe and sometimes sure, like an idea from one of those bands will spark and we'll say, well, I don't think it's ever directly like, hey, we want to sound like this, but it's
Right.
there's some sort
You'll
of
be like, well, when they do this, like that's the kind of feel we're trying to get.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that atmospheric. We're trying to set that mood, in that moment. And it's foundational,
Right.
And I've been very heavily influenced recently by old soul music and Motown and stuff like that. So like a song of ours, "Holding Back the Heart," we ripped the lick straight off, but the Beatles did it too.
Yeah.
And everyone did
okay.
it before them, and people do it after. So I don't feel bad doing it at all.
Okay, and now the songs that we're hearing in the podcast are going to be on an upcoming EP that you're working on right now?
Yep. We recorded 3 songs at Range Records in December. And one of the songs is going to be taken off our demo, but remastered. And the 4 songs come out of that session there.
Excellent. So this third song, Rough Diamond, is one of those songs. Tell us about what Rough Diamond is about.
Rough Diamond Rough Diamond was a song I didn't want to write. A lot of times when I go through relationships and there's albums upon albums just lying there, and I feel like it's cheating, because there's a lot of stuff right in front of you that you can dig up and you can put in bags and you can sell to people. And that's a formula that's been done for a long time, but I made myself write this song because I felt like I needed to say this. Rough Diamond is about an ex-girlfriend, and she was that. She was a rough diamond, and it's kind of this feeling that that relationships don't really end. Relationships. So the chorus is what are the words? The chorus is but don't leave me now, but it's simple, you're a wave and the moon is pulling you away. So it's kind of like this tidal scene where, like, there's high tides and low tides, and you have no control over it. You didn't do something to make it end. You didn't say something that someone took the wrong way. It was just time. Mm-hmm. And the natural forces of the universe and the directions of our lives is what ended it. And I feel like a lot of people don't recognize that in their relationships. And I felt like it was kind of a fresh take on a breakup song.
Right. It wasn't something that you heard before, so
right.
That was the motivation that had you put the pen to paper.
Right. It wasn't like, baby, don't leave me. I can't believe it. It was kind of like, all right, you have to go. I understand. I'm not okay with it. I'm not comfortable with it, but there are things beyond my control.
Got it. All right. We are talking with Tim, Dave, and Drew from The Naked Sun, and this song is called Rough Diamond on yourlocalnote.com.
Whistle, you rough diamond. All the mistakes you're free from. Upon a skull you made it fall. Now so back into the sun. Simple seeded creature crawled a long, long way from home. Fell from a boat, landed inside the shores, bubbling foam. His magician sweat for hours, mix ingredients of perfection, debate nature versus synthetic for the great acts of deception. While I wake all day, there's this mystery and this house. Tear me apart from the inside out. But don't leave me now.
And that is Rough Diamond, and they are The Naked Sun, and you're listening to yourlocalnote.com. Live performances. You guys have played quite a few shows around the area. You just finished up an XPN studio session. What are some of your favorite places to play around the city? Maybe share a story from the road.
So I used to live in Baltimore for 5 years, and we played a show in Baltimore, and it was a lot of fun. I saw my whole extended family out there, not my blood family, my peoples, and they showed up in numbers, and it was an amazing night. We had a really great time, and my best friend and soul brother, John Decker, even though he's 62 years old, he's my guy. He's a spiritual advisor. This man he's immortal, and I think he blew some of us away who had just met him for the first time. But yeah, I got to show these guys at Baltimore in all its grittiness. I don't know if the Ravens just did their parade, right?
Yes.
Didn't they all like sit in tanks or something? Didn't they? Like, wasn't Flacco in like an armored vehicle? I mean, that's symbolic.
You would advise that they did?
Absolutely. All their agents were like, put these guys in armored vehicles.
What were your impressions of Baltimore when you went down there?
Well, it's funny. When we first went down, we drove through the seediest area I've ever been through. It was bad. And, I hadn't seen anything that bad in movies. And then we pull up this beautiful little street with these great houses. And as soon as we get out, we hear this bluegrass music playing, and slide guitar and banjos and mandolins. And that was Decker's house, who Jules was talking about. We walk in the back, and there's this beautiful garden. You literally pick stuff right off the plants and eat it. And
The word grotto comes to mind.
yeah,
A grotto in Baltimore.
Yeah.
and it was great. It was just a great experience, and it was one of those things that's kind of defined what we're all about. We're all so busy with life, and very rarely do we get a lot of time to plan or prep for shows. And we just kind of throw caution to the wind all the time, and just jump into these situations, and we don't know what to expect. And so far, and Baltimore is a perfect example. I mean, it's paid off. Every time we walk away with a big smile on our faces and a few more people to love, and another experience to share. So
Excellent.
it's good stuff. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, for someone who's hearing this podcast now and hasn't seen you perform live, give us a taste of what should we expect when seeing you perform.
We've made a good connection with a guy named John Batiste over at the Key, and he described us as I think rock and roll ramblers, or rambling rock and roll. I think that's kind of a good way to characterize it. We kind of run the spectrum from some slower stuff like Rough Diamond, like you heard, to more like a shuffle, like Cosmic Winds, and then some just downright rock and roll, like Holding Back the Heart. So I think roots rock is a good way to characterize it. It's rock and roll, honest rock.
We drink on stage. Me especially.
It's a great follow-up to that really detailed description.
And we're loud. I think that's what people don't really get when they meet us or hear us or, listen to our key session. We rock. We rock hard.
You mentioned John Batiste, the XBN session that you just finished up. Where can we find those tracks from the studio session?
You can find them on, I think it's thekey.xpn.org, or if you search XPN for the Key, and studio sessions will be on there. You can download. There's 5 tracks on there that we cut.
Okay, and let's run down where people can find you, the different websites, social networks. Gotta do all this stuff.
We're all over the internets. We are thenakedsun.com. Twitter, we are at The Naked Sun 1. Facebook, the number 1, yes. Facebook, we are facebook.com/fatalien215.
Fat Alien.
Yeah.
We're on Bandcamp too. I don't know the exact address. The Naked Sun 1.
Yeah, the Fat Alien. That's the name of a song.
Okay.
That's our rocker.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's our serious rocker.
All right. We didn't really touch on it, but as you're putting this EP together, you mentioned where you're recording it, but how much say have you guys had in putting this together and the how the songs have come out and things like that?
Everything.
Is this almost self-produced?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I wrote up a little manifesto in the very beginning just to kind of make sure that we were sticking to our values. So our number 1 rule is we're not allowed to be douchebags.
Okay. All right, douchebags, you may be able to get away with that even on radio, depending on the context.
Okay.
All right. So we just are trying not to be douchebags. We're trying to remain true to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the thing with doing it yourself, like you said, it's slower, but in the end, you know, it means more.
Okay.
And we have no one to answer to except ourselves.
All right, and then you're going to have someone mix it down for you, though.
Tom, our 5th member, is going to mix it for us, and we'll be integral in that process. We'll be sitting right there.
So this is a self-produced band, but you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Excellent. All right, guys, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure hanging with you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank
Really
you so much
appreciate
for
it.
having
Good
us.
time.
Not
It's
a
been
problem.
awesome.
Let's get to the last song. It's called Fatigue. So, Drew, what is this about?
So this one's definitely straight out of the punk rock vein. A couple years ago, sitting in Baltimore, I was reading an article about a sweatshop in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you always think sweatshops are in China or like Malaysia or something
Right.
like that. This sweatshop was in Mississippi, and they were making, of all things ironic, army uniforms.
For the government.
Right. So that's
Nice.
where the word fatigue comes from.
I got it.
And this is just basically a double metaphor, talking about, you know, fatigue, the literal fatigue you feel as a sweatshop maker,
Okay.
and the fatigue of, you know, what they're producing
Sure.
are fatigues. And it's a question, and I think it goes beyond that. When you're doing something you don't want to do, and you know you don't want to do it, and you're living someone else's dream for someone else, doing it, making their dream come true, you have to ask yourself, is this worth it? And how can I get out of this?
All right. Musically, how did this come together?
This is actually a City Slide song that we redid. You know, we needed some songs for shows in the very beginning.
Okay.
So we took some of the City Slide songs, some of my old songs,
Okay.
and it started pretty much like the City Slide song, and then the more we played it, the louder it got.
All right. So you adjusted. That was sort of the framework, and then you adjusted a little bit as you got into it.
Yeah, it started to become a rocker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, guys, again, thank you so much for hanging with us. Want to remind you that we will have a brand new podcast coming up next week, as we always do, a new podcast on Monday. So check it out. And, of course, if you want to let us know what you think, you can let us know by just emailing us at contact@yourlocalnote.com. And don't forget, again, we have our apps. They're free. Just go to the respective stores and type in YLN. It'll take you to our streaming, which is 24/7. Again, the band we had on this featured podcast is The Naked Sun. This song is called Fatigue on yourlocalnote.com.